Okay, so I picked Sinfonia number 5 for one of my Sinfonias to teach. And I think the first thing I would talk about this piece is the character of it and try to explore that with the students. So to me, the character, I would play a little bit for them actually first. To you, what do you think that character is? Hopefully I can lead them to this kind of lighthearted, peaceful, lighthearted sort of character that I hear in this, almost like, a very nice casual walk and conversation between two friends. So after we talk and establish this idea of character, I would go on to talk about how do we attain character? How do you develop that in a piece? And the first thing I would talk about is the articulation. How by touch we can bring out the character of piece. So for example, this opening figure. How do we touch that? How do we shape it in order to give it a character? Because, there's, listening to other recordings of this, there are different ways to play it. I've heard people do it more legato or slower. To me, though, the piece does call for more of that lighthearted characterness and that sort of Baroque legato touch. I would explain to my students how you want to get that character by the shaping and the touch. So we want a slight, Baroque detached touch, legato touch. It's still sounding legato and connected, but it's detached. And then also you want to shape that. Where is that line going to? So, there and to there. That's where we're going to. That E flat, which makes sense because the piece is an E flat. That's our tonic. So there and to there. 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 So I might try to get them to play through that and get that phrase shape, since that bass line is very important to the piece. And then just overall trying to establish that kind of detached Baroque but legato feel to their playing. And then the other thing I would get them to notice too are all of the quite a few tied notes in here, and the importance of those harmonically, but that is a different type of touch, trying to make it that legato and connected, those lines connected. So still hearing that B flat, so we can get that second relationship. I forgot to take the E flat. So hit the E flat. So just how you touch the piano and how that helps us to develop the character of a piece. The next thing I would talk to them about is the conversation and the hands that are going on. Listening to those voices separately is a very important thing in Baroque music in particular. So, talking about this independent bass line voice that's talking to there that we've developed, but also how there's a soprano line. And then counter or not supporting that soprano line, you have the alto line. And how those have this dialogue between each other when they're both played together. it makes a very beautiful dialogue and communication. And then when you add them all together, it really makes this kind of satisfying conversation throughout the piece. And that's how I feel with most Baroque pieces, is it's a conversation between two parties, or maybe 3 or 4, depending on who's there. And the next thing I would talk about is just mapping out the harmonies. I would make sure, maybe even that first week, depending on how advanced the student is taking maybe a page at a time and separating the voices, making sure they understand those separate 3 voices on their own before actually adding them together. That way they can make educated choices on which lines to bring out. And they're not just thinking so vertically and note, they're thinking horizontally, thinking of how they move together. And the last thing I would talk about after they did that would be mapping the piece out. Trying to understand the piece harmonically. So, we are in E flat major, starting out with that, but where do we go after that? That first theme, identifying where that theme is. Theme A measures 1 through 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's that's definitely our theme A. But then where does that theme go to? Where does it lead after that? And identifying those chords. Like we see here later on in measure 13 that we're exploring minor keys in C minor. It's changed now. We have a darker color, but then that changes back to a major sound, but it's no longer E flat major. It's in B flat major. And I would also point out to them, signs that Bach gives you, letting you know that he is going to modulate somewhere. Like it's very obvious that we're modulating somewhere because he gives us this octave so, do. Anytime he does a key change, he has that same lead in. He does the same thing here later on. Figuring out how to make the piece feel less intimidating by saying, oh, well, there's the theme A, and look, the last half of this, or last quarter of the piece, that's theme A again. That's theme A again, it's an A flat major, but it's still the theme A again, just presenting itself. So it just makes it feel more, doable, I think, for the student as well as showing, key movements harmonically, like those bass modulations. It happens again in measure 24. So he does it quite a few times, and those type of almost like landmark sections, I think, will help a student. Lastly, with that mapping, I would point out some of the sequencing that goes on to, for example, measure 5. This 4th that he does here, he likes that. That's what we're looking for. Quite a few times in the piece where he has slight sequencing, and that helps the pianist do, I think. So that's what I would say about this Sinfonia 5.